So let's see how this works. So one of the things I need to find out is how far back personality goes. Because I believe I've heard that personality goes back to species before humans or even primates, that there are species that potentially we came from that have personalities, potentially all the way back to when we came out of the ocean, which maybe I've heard that, maybe I haven't, maybe I'm imagining it, I don't know, but I need to look into that and find out, because something that seems odd to me. So if personality is something that's just a random slider along a deviation set in order to check for a different evolutionary advantage and disadvantage and what breeds and what doesn't, if that's all it is, to find out what is the most selectable or promotable trait, it seems unlikely to me that we would still have it to such high variation as we do, depending on how far back the delta is between it. Because I mean, if this goes back to theoretically potentially like fish have personalities and they can be of the type or differentiation of us, then it seems odd to me that we would evolve out of having gills but would still have personality, as though we're still in random deviation in order to find out what's useful. Right? Because like let's say we had, I don't know, we used to be covered in hair like apes, right? We're not so covered in hair anymore like we were in apes, or where we were in Homo sapiens or Cro-Magnons, or go back to wherever we were. Like, we've lost a lot of the attributes that we used to have, but yet we still have diverse personality sets, which, at least as far back as that goes, I think it's probably pretty safe to say we had those all the way back there. So why did we retain those and not lose all the hair? Or rather, why did we retain those when we lost all the hair, completely modified our mandible set, right? Like, why would we still have such a wide-ranging personality set? I don't think it's a random derivation like everything else. I don't think it's a selectability thing to find out what gives you better traits for mateability, because otherwise, why wouldn't we all be hyper-industrious people now? We've been in mercantile civilizations for thousands of years at this point, and low neurotic, high industry, high creativity, high intellect seem like they would have been evolutionary advantageous for, I would assume, at least 10,000 years. So why is it still a set that we maintain? Why hasn't that been bred out? That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. What seems more likely is that it's a set that's evolved to do precisely what it's already doing. We just don't actually recognize what it's doing. Right? It's not a trait that we've built because we're trying to figure out where to slide ourselves on the personality scale, so we figure out what portions of the personality we can drop. I don't think it's that at all. I think the personality is actually already pretty evolved, and it has been evolved for some time, and it's meant to perform a specific function, specifically in tandem with different people of different personality types. Right? Because you need the leaders, you need the oracles, you need the workers, you need the mothers, you need all these different groups inside of a society set. So I don't think it's a slider to find out what works best for mateability. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's already highly evolved to perform the function that it is performing. If that makes sense. To me it does, but that's not the problem. The problem is it probably doesn't make sense to anybody else. Or maybe there are some people it does make sense to, but I don't know. So anyway, I need to start researching the different personality measurement metrics where we've actually been able to identify not necessarily one-to-one ratio of like personality models as human beings, but how far back a thing like a personality model goes, and how far does it extend, and how does it seem to work inside of like different groups? How do different animals segregate themselves out into different roles? How does that function? Do those roles seem like they're distinctly separated? Because we have distinct separation between male and female to the point that we actually have different biological makeup for them, and I think potentially we have different personality makeup for the same role. It's just, if you think about that, it makes a whole lot of sense that it would work like that, right? Because everything up until a point had been working on modification of strictly physical attributes, but one of the things that most separated human beings, or the evolution of something that would become human beings from everything else, is the fact that we started to evolve more gray matter, to the point that we actually traded an intestine for it, because we figured out nutrient-rich food with fire and whatnot. So it makes sense that most of our evolution for fulfilling different role types, like the difference between men and women, for example, would instead be taking place in the brain, right? We would actually have different brain sets that are actually parsed out to fill specific roles. Like, that makes a ton of sense. That makes so much sense that would be the point where it would happen. It just wouldn't be nearly as physically obvious, right? It wouldn't be like men are big, have broad shoulders, higher center of gravity, and women, lower center of gravity, waist-hip ratio, have children. I think that's it, man. I think that's what's going on in the personality differentiation between different human beings. So I gotta start researching that. Maybe even need to see if there's some sort of master's program I can get into about this, and potentially actually work to get a doctorate in clinical psychology, because I might actually need to start, what's the way to phrase this? I need to start gathering data on different types and how it manifests in different personalities in ways that I don't know that it's being gathered, or ways that I haven't immediately and obviously seen or heard that it's being gathered. I think that might be necessary for me to do. If nobody else is onto this. I haven't looked around nearly as hard as I could, but from the limited looking I have, nobody has been onto this. They've been onto like the sort of foundation of something like this, if you will, the understanding that, it's not tabula rasa. We do actually have traits that we're born with. They have ways that they predict how we behave and interact with the rest of society, models of our behavior and how we react to outside stimuli. Like, I see people furthering the idea that, yes, we are born a certain way and we have certain capabilities, but that's the foundation of understanding this. So even if we are born that way, like, one of the possible things that people are going to look to, which was that story about that guy that killed himself after his company got smeared for the peach smelling vaginas. If nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about there, that's fine. There's a whole thing. Anyway, point was, he was trying to figure out a cheaper way to write DNA so we could actually make smarter people that didn't age, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And one of the things was figuring out how to solve UTIs, women with vaginas, and potentially you could actually modify the smell of it. So the original thing, anyway, I'm going off in the weeds there. There was a whole project about that. But so if we don't actually figure out that the personality types are meant to be performing specific roles, and they are in society, which, god damn it, I'm convinced that's what's happening. It's just, it's so complicated and hard to map that it's hard to explain to anybody. But if we don't figure that out, I think what's going to happen is people are, instead of realizing the critical function they perform, they're going to start trying to edit a lot of those attributes out of people, and we will start to remove that critical function, and, who only knows what effect that's going to have on us as a society, right? If what we've built is dependent on that we have neurotic people, and we get rid of the neurotic people, like, it may be great, or we may be well and truly fucked after that. It's hard to know. So I need to see if I can get myself, like, buckled into, like, getting myself into this mindset to actually start researching this stuff hardcore. Because I'm not sure there's going to be, even if I don't research it hardcore like everybody else does, because maybe that's not how my brain is engineered to function with stuff like this, I need to at least build up enough of it so that I can sort of drift through it in the way that I do problem solving, which is low orderly, high creativity, right? At least figuring out how that works. And then figuring out how the other types manifest in other people, how that manifests their particular flavors of depression when coupled with their intrinsic interests, their upbringing, their geophysical location. There's all sorts of fucking data that goes into actually mapping this out and truly understanding it. Like, it's as complicated. In fact, it's probably more complicated than DNA, because I think everything about this is extrapolated from DNA. So take how complicated DNA is, multiply it by a factor of who knows, man. I can figure out a way to actually start understanding more of this, and I may have to actually do a career change for it. Because I may have to get to the point where I'm able to do direct interface with people that have specific problems, and I'm trying to map it and triage it myself. If the results I'm seeing in the psychological literature, I think, are missing the fundamental thing I'm seeing, and if whether or not what I'm seeing is even correct. I could be off my fucking rocker, who knows. I don't think I am, but fuck, there might not be another way to do it, man. I don't want to be broke again, goddammit. I don't know, but I need to figure out if I even can. If I can even do that, if I even can make myself buckle into it, if I am just too done in now that I can't. But I'm not so done in that whatever this thought train is will leave me the fuck alone, so maybe I'm not going to have a choice if I don't kill myself. Not like I'm genuinely considering it. I mean, like, I'm either going to have to do something with this, or my brain's going to be like, dude, I'm going to claw your eyeballs out if you don't actually start figuring out what this problem is and figuring out how to fix it. I just really don't want to be broke again, man. I really don't want to have to go through being broke again to switch through all this. I don't want to go through getting God knows what my fucking debt would be to get a PhD in clinical psych. Like, fuck, I can't even imagine. I do not want to do that, but if I don't have any other fucking choice... Wah. You're smart and make money easy, Robert. Complain about it. Fucking baby. It just seems so obvious, so I don't get why somebody's not on it. So either I'm batshit fucking crazy, or I'm just brilliant beyond what anybody else is in understanding this, or at least anybody I've heard of. But the 99.99% likely scenario is I'm fucking crazy, so that's comforting. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know how I get about getting the information I need to do this and doing the observation I need to do without actually making it a full-time career. I have no desire to be eating ramen or worrying about paying rent for another however many fucking years, and then incurring debt that I'll probably die before I get the chance to pay off. That sounds phenomenal. Let's do that. I'm just complaining. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit.